Over the past 10 years, myself and my team have built and launched 757 different sales funnels, generating collectively $30 million selling our online products and services. And during this time, we've tested new funnels, we've tweaked old ones, and we've completely scrapped funnels that worked for years but then stopped working. So it's fair to say we've learned a thing or two, and I'm going to reveal all of our findings today. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the exact strategies that we've taught our private clients that have helped them generate over 70 million in online sales, the sales funnels you must avoid if you're going to be successful, and I'm also going to share with you some ninja tricks to turn a dead funnel into one that's highly converting. But first, if you're new here, my name is John. I'm a husband, father, and founder of AdClients.com. And over the past 10 years, I built multiple online businesses and generated over $30 million in online sales without hustling 24/7, sacrificing my personal life, or having to stop doing the things that I love. And now here on the channel, I help others do the same. So before we go much further with the video today, we need to understand the difference between a sales funnel and a website. So let's start with a website, because websites came first. When you wanted to establish yourself online, you wanted to launch a business, launch a brand, then one of the first things you would think about outside of I need a business card was I need a website. And so you would go onto WordPress or Wix or something similar, and you would design yourself a wonderful, beautiful looking website that presents you the way you want it to be presented. You've got a number of different tabs along the top where they can click around and learn a bit more about you and your business and the products that you have. And there's loads of different stuff going on, but it was a one-stop shop for them to get to know you and the business. The problem with this, however, although a website was nice at the time, it doesn't focus attention. So when someone lands on your website, there is no clear call to action. What do they do next? And that's when sales funnels became popular. This was an idea of saying, well, I've got all this information on my website. I've got these different tabs. I've got this customer journey, but they don't know how to go on it. So I'm gonna, instead of putting it all in one place, I'm gonna break it up. I'm gonna have a series of pages that takes my potential customer or client on that journey with only one core thing to do on every single step. So this might look like landing on an initial page where there's nothing else to do but put your name and email onto that page to get to the next step. And when you go to the next step, you're delivered the thing you were just promised, and then maybe there's a video explaining a bit more about the business, and then there's a call to action at the end of that video to move to the next step, so on and so forth. And the goal is to turn someone who was not familiar with your business and out the other end is ready to buy something from you. That's the difference between a sales funnel and a website. They both have a place in your business, but today we're going to be focusing on sales funnels. So now that we know what a sales funnel is, what I'd like to do after launching 757 of these things, I want to take you through 3 core sales funnels that we've used, we've tested, some we've had success with, one we haven't, and I want to share with you some of my biggest findings and learnings off the back of this. So the first funnel I want to talk about is called a VSL funnel. That stands for a video sales letter. The premise is that you have a video at the top of a page that is doing all the selling and telling for you and your business. And when this first came around 10 plus years ago, it was to not replace, but become another version of the traditional sales letter, which would have been no videos, only text, which meant you had a really long page and you're scrolling for days and days and days to get all the information. Someone somewhere decided, hey, let's take all of that information, plug it into a video so that it can all be at the very top of the page without the need to scroll. And so was born the VSL. And now we need to plug the right stuff on the other end of that particular page, because at the beginning of the sales funnel, before you see the VSL, you have an opt-in page. Because every great sales funnel, or for every great business that has a long-term plan, you want to build your email list. So you don't want to send traffic directly to your VSL, because then you are going to have what we call a leaking bucket. You're going to send all of this traffic to a page that a very small portion of people are going to take the action at the end of the VSL. And everyone else is disappearing back onto social media, and you have no way of following up with them. So the game plan here is that we lead them to an opt-in page where we entice them to give us their name and email to be able to watch the video on the next page. And by doing that, we can maximize the traffic that lands on that page, opting onto our email list and then accessing the VSL. And then out the other end, once they've watched the video, typically the call to action is going to be to book a call on your calendar so that you can then have a sales conversation with them and sell your product. So let me share with you some very specific numbers from tests and experiments that we have run with VSLs, because we do indeed use the sales funnel in that fashion. We book sales conversations out the other end, and then we enroll people into our high ticket coaching program. And typically what you would expect with a VSL is you would get high volume of calls, but they're probably going to be lower quality, because if you're only going to shoot a 5 or a 10-minute video and that person hasn't heard of you before they landed on your opt-in page and watched the VSL, then they would be less qualified, let's say, and so they're not as ready to make a buying decision. However, there are some times where we have launched the right type of VSL with the right script in the right way, and actually it does an incredible job at deterring the wrong people that aren't a good fit for our program, and only has people moving through onto our calendar that are the right type of people. So we did a test here not long ago, and I'll share with you the exact numbers where we saw just that. We got low quantity, but we had a very high uptake in our coaching sales out the other end, so we had very high quality as a result. So we spent on Meta for this particular funnel $5,838. For that we got 47 leads, which is a cost per lead of $124. That is incredibly high. That is very expensive for a lead and not something that we would typically look to try to sustain. Out the other end of that, we got 7 calls booked, giving us $834 per call, which again, incredibly high, not something that we would usually look to sustain. But we got 2 sales from those 7 calls, which was $25,000 in revenue. That's a 5x return on our ad spend. So what do we learn from this? We learned that the VSL was doing a great job at getting the right people to book a call, and they were people that were ready to invest. What also did we learn? Well, we had a really high cost per lead, and therefore the knock-on effect was a really high cost per call. So we decided to test something. We decided to see what impact it would have on the funnel if we removed the opt-in page, and let's just see. So here are the results. We spent another $4,844 on Meta. Because we didn't have the opt-in, they go straight to the VSL. We generated 15 calls, twice as many as the previous test, for a cost per call of $322. And at the time of recording this video, those calls are really fresh and they're still talking to our sales team. So the sales are yet to be determined, but I imagine based on the conversation so far, the conversions are going to be pretty similar. So what can we learn from this? Well, we need to make what we call data-driven decisions. This is what we preach to our team. There are standard processes that we're using with these sales funnels, but sometimes we go against the grain if the data is pointing us in that direction. There are other sales funnels in my business where we are building our list and generating leads. But in this particular funnel, with a VSL in this fashion, we will probably maintain not having a list building effort there because it dramatically reduces our cost per call booked. So with everything you're doing, you've got to look for the data, look for the clues, and then act upon them. And there is another really important lesson we can learn here, which is that not all traffic platforms will work with the same funnel. For example, the data I just gave you was that VSL working quite well on Meta. We tried to do it on YouTube and it didn't work quite so well. Here's what happened. We spent $1,429 on YouTube pointing traffic to the exact same VSL, and instead of the $322 per call booking we were seeing on Meta, we were getting calls booked at $714. We only got 2 calls booked for the $1,400 that we spent. So you can imagine what we did. We turned that traffic source off. So when you find a winning funnel, it doesn't necessarily mean that every traffic source will work. So that's a VSL funnel. The second type of funnel we're going to talk about today is a community funnel. What is this? A community funnel is where we use a platform like Facebook or school, where we build a community, we nurture that community, we provide value to that community ongoingly, and then we go in every now and again to do what we call a lead grab, where once they've been nurtured for a period of time, we go in there and try to grab some of those leads and get them onto our calendar to speak about our coaching. Now, this is a more long-term strategy, meaning when you drive traffic on social media, you're not necessarily taking them through a cycle like the VSL, where they're instantly watching a video, instantly booking a call, and getting on with your sales team. The sales cycle is longer. You drive traffic online, you take them to a place where they're going to hear about your Facebook group or your school group, you invite them into that group, and now you're having to wait a few weeks, sometimes a few months, to have nurtured them enough to the point where they're ready to now jump onto your calendar and speak about coaching. Some people seem to use this as their primary funnel strategy. I don't necessarily think that that's the best way to do this. As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to do a community funnel, it should be in addition to whatever your other main driver of turning traffic into calls is. But let me share with you my specific experience with this, because it's actually not positive, I'm afraid. And I want to preface what I'm about to say with this. I'm not saying this particular funnel doesn't work. There are other people that seem to get this working. For me, I wasn't able to. Me and my team spent months trying to get this community funnel to work. We were driving traffic to the right type of pages. We got some coaching of our own on how we implement this properly, to nurture in the right way, to provide the right value, to do the lead grabs in the way that you're supposed to do it. And we just were not seeing any results. And we're not talking about having 20, 30 or 40 people in a community. We were going pretty hard with this. We had over 2,000 of our ideal clients in this group, but we just could not get any of them to turn into clients. All the while, another one of our funnels had generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in new client revenue in the same time period. So could you argue that we just didn't do it right? And the answer is absolutely. There's every chance we didn't do it right. But I would also push back and say, I've got an experienced team and we've been doing this type of stuff for a very, very long time. So if we struggled to make it work, I can only imagine how much harder it would be for someone brand new to the industry to try to make a strategy like that work. So what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson is don't be afraid to scrap a funnel and completely switch gears if you've plugged away at something for long enough and it's not quite working. You need to start to see a bit of fruit. You need to start to see something that you can build upon. But if you've spent months and you're just seeing absolutely no benefit here, then there is a time when you should say, scrap that. Let me rethink the plan and go in a different direction. And then we've got the third sales funnel that we're going to talk about today. And I have in fact saved the best till last. This is a webinar funnel, and it is something that has stood the test of time. It works so incredibly well. And I find it gets the perfect balance of quantity and quality. We sometimes get these great results and these peaks in performance with VSL funnels like I shared with you earlier. But with VSLs, we find the results are so unpredictable that when you're trying to scale your sales and scale your business, it becomes very hard to do that. We can't rely on these numbers. Whereas a webinar is the complete opposite. We are able to rely on them. They consistently produce volume of calls on our calendar, but also a consistent quality of those calls. And that is something that we can scale upon. And one of the questions that comes up all the time is webinar versus VSL. What is the big difference? Because they both have video elements. So let's talk about this because it's quite important. A VSL has a video on a page that is readily available to watch at any moment, and typically you can pause the video, you can scrub back and forth. A webinar, however, is a completely different approach to having someone view a piece of content. When you register for a webinar, you're registering to watch a presentation at a specific date and time. There is the feeling of anticipation as you wait for that presentation. You don't get to watch it instantly. You register, there's a moment where you're waiting, whether it's a few minutes, a few hours, or a few days, you're waiting. Once you eventually get access to the presentation, you go into something of a digital webinar room where you can't scrub the video, you can't pause it. It's playing and you have to pay attention right there and then. And in most cases, there's a chat box as well, where if the presentation is live, other people are interacting. If it's pre-recorded, there may be some chat lines from past attendees that were commenting at certain points in the presentation. All of this creates this feeling of a captive environment and a captive audience. With a VSL, people are easily distracted and there's no urgency to consume the video right then and there. With a webinar, they're not as easily distracted because you have their attention and they can't decide if they're going to watch it now or later. It's now or never. So if they have decided to watch it, they're going to be giving you almost their full attention. And there's so many other benefits to webinars, too many to mention in this video, but one more that I'll focus on is that when you make an invitation at the end of a webinar for them to book a call, it's only people that get to the very end of the presentation that have the ability to take action on that. Typically with a VSL, the button to book a call is there all the time. So if you had a 40-minute VSL, somebody could book a call 5 minutes in. Somebody might book 20 minutes in. Somebody might book 2 minutes in. Whereas if you had a 40-minute webinar, it's only people that get to the very end when the invitation happens that have a chance to book a call. This further helps weed out the wrong people, and only the people that are, of course, enjoying the presentation stay till the end, and book a call with you. So as you can gather from my passion for this particular topic, this has been a foundational funnel for us for the past 10 years. I've invested heavily in my own education and coaching over the years to hone in this skill, and we've made tens of millions of dollars through our live webinar presentations and our automated webinar funnels as well. And by the way, if you'd like to benefit from all of that knowledge and get the cheat codes, I've got an incredible resource for you called the High Ticket Webinar Framework, where I literally break down exactly what you need to do in your webinar presentations from A to Z to have an incredible high converting webinar of your own. It's my free gift to you. There's a link in the description box. Go ahead and click on that. Just tell me where to send it. We'll get it straight over to you. So what can we learn from this? Well, firstly, webinars are awesome, okay? The second thing we can learn from this is that it's important to invest in yourself if you want to master something. Could I have figured out this webinar stuff by myself? Yes, probably. Would I have earned as much revenue at this present moment as I have done? Absolutely not, if I didn't invest in early coaches and mentors. So once you find something that shows some promise, that is revealing some fruit, that it looks like it's working and going in the right direction, then double down on it, invest in your education, find a mentor. It will pay dividends many times over. Now, before we move on from webinars, I want to share with you one simple strategy that me and my team deployed that made a massive difference to the revenue that we were generating. In fact, it added another $500,000 in revenue in a single year from one little tweak, and here's what it was. On a typical webinar registration page, you ask for a name and an email. Of course, that's building your email list. My team decided, what if we add a phone field as well? Now, we'll make it optional, so people do not need to give us their phone number. But if we ask for it, then at least we have it. And now after the webinar presentation has happened, our team can give everyone a phone call if we wish, and we can find out what they thought of the presentation and if they wanted to book a call with our team to talk about further coaching. Now, this can only be of benefit. The only reason it would hurt us is if it reduced our opt-in percentage, meaning if we would get a 30% of people that land on the registration page opting in and giving us their details, and then we add the phone field and it halves to 15%, well, now we have a problem. But what if it doesn't have that much of an impact? Well, here are the numbers. We found by adding an optional phone field, we had exactly 0% reduction in opt-in rate, which was fantastic. We're basically getting free phone numbers. Now, here's the cool part. 79% of people that land on that page were giving us voluntarily their phone number as well. So we had 1,868 leads, and 1,474 of them gave us their number. And these numbers are from one of our funnels in 1 month of the year. Now, here's the cool thing. That's a lot of numbers, but we may not get a hold of everybody. Our team were speaking to these people. Off the back of those conversations, we booked 34 additional sales appointments that we otherwise never would have booked. That equated to 4 additional high-ticket coaching sales for us, which was a value of $48,000 in revenue. Times that by 12 months in the year, that's $576,000 in additional revenue by adding one little tweak to one little page. So what's the lesson here? As you're trying to scale your business and scale the success of these sales funnels, you need to be looking for these small hinges that swing big doors. What are the little tweaks and the little changes that you can make to your sales funnels that if that thing was a positive outcome, it would have a ripple effect across the amount of traffic that you're pushing into it? And this was a prime example. So I didn't have time in this video to go through the entire webinar process and framework, but if you want to go deeper on this topic, which I highly suggest that you do, I've got another video for you right here that you can check out where I break down this entire framework step by step. I think you'll absolutely love it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up and I'll see you in a future one.